There's hope, but only if a ceasefire is brokered. But that won't be enough. Ukraine, for instance, would require significant reconstruction, and in that scenario, Ukraine's GDP should be able to rebound. But given the nature of the war that's going on, it's really unlikely. Ukraine also has a large workforce of skilled laborers, and the forced displacement means they might fill in countries with an aging population, and that might boost some of those economies. Irrespective of such a scope, the short-term situation is not looking good. Both economies will face fiscal pressure, clubbed with trouble in scaling up the provision of healthcare, housing, and schooling.
You are watching India Today.
Right before the Russian invasion started, Zelensky had a 21% approval rating as Ukraine's leader. But after the war, his approval rating as a leader has skyrocketed rather than tripled to 90%. But before the invasion, Ukraine was not so sure about the comedian turned president. Why is that? To know, let's track his political real estate. The showman turned politician received a healthy 73% support during his presidential campaign. His supporters wanted change and a quick solution, which is why they voted against the then incumbent president Petro Poroshenko. He was fresh, unconventional, and a new alternative to the old elites, and his alternative image worked in his favor, winning him the presidency. But the Zelensky hype evaporated by 2020, and his approval rating suffered a scathing dip. In 2021, his approval rating was 24.7%. People's trust in him fell because around that time, Pandora Papers revealed that Zelensky was amongst the world leaders holding an offshore company. This was in direct conflict with his established image of someone who's anti-corruption and anti-establishment. However, he explained that these companies were there to defend his business in Ukraine. Some sociologists even believe that the drop in his rating is related to people waiting for the election time promise to be delivered. But that's a tale of the past now. His image has got a new makeover where he is now seen as a gallant, brave Ukrainian. Should the past haunt his present? Well, it might not be that right now because he's now seen as Ukraine's frontline political defender. But let's talk about some of his blunders too, because what is a politician without some political blunders? Here's one. He was widely criticized for apparently deepening alliance with the far right of Ukraine and with neo-Nazi forces, especially when a whiff of news came out about Zelensky's involvement with Serhiy Stenenko and that he was offered a position as head of Ukraine's security service. Serhiy Stenenko is a convicted criminal with a bloody political history, including kidnapping, murder, and drug charges. But it seems that Ukrainians now can keep that internal difference aside and focus on their efforts in tackling this war. After all, he's now become the poster child of Ukrainian patriotism in trying to fend off Russian invasion. He risked his life staying in Ukraine, survived assassination attempts, and also been on the front lines of addressing his Western counterparts for help.
When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism.
You are watching.
On this week's show, a different kind of technology ecosystem, one that's a lot lighter on your pocket, and an exclusive conversation with the founder of India's top wearables brand, making all the right noises in the wearable space. You don't want to miss this action-packed episode of Tech Today. The ecosystem, a term that has been used and overused in the world of tech, guilty as charged. Look, I've used it on shows of Tech Today before as well. So what does that really mean? For instance, if you were to go and purchase, well, a new iPhone, AirPods Pro, and then also the Apple Watch, then you'd be investing in the Apple ecosystem. You can keep building on it with an iPad, an Apple Pencil, HomePod. It just goes on and on and on. But this is a great way to start, right? A phone, AirPods, and a watch. That's one way of investing in an ecosystem, but that's something which would be very, very, very expensive. It will cost you over 2 lakh rupees depending on which phone you buy and which kind of AirPods you buy. What if I told you that there needs to be, or maybe there is, an alternative ecosystem? In the ecosystem battle, OnePlus was our only hope, and with their devices, I think it's still a work in progress. So then you think about it, saying these are still the flagship premium ecosystems. What if I want an affordable ecosystem which works really well? Maybe under 40,000 rupees. That's why the Tech Today table is crowded, because we have the Air 2 Pro by Oppo. This, of course, with the Reno 7 Pro. But what we're going to do is a newer launch is something we're going to focus on, which is the Oppo F21 Pro and the F21 Pro 5G. These, well, in the affordable smartphone category are, well, in a class of their own. And then the Oppo Watch Free. This is what the ecosystem conversation is going to be about. Q, a four-letter company which seems to be innovating in this space, and we've seen it with their foldables, we've seen it with some of their premium devices as well. But then when it gets affordable, there are options, and there is this small sort of ecosystem that we think is brewing out here as well. So how do you come up with an ecosystem on a budget? So like I said, we'll be focusing on these 3 products to build our Oppo ecosystem. The Oppo F21 Pro, which has really caught our eye in terms of its design language, the Oppo Watch Free, which I think is quite an interesting proposition at the price point it's offered. And these, well, it's the dark horse, the Oppo Air 2 Pro, which look a lot like my AirPods, but are they a true bang for your buck? That's what we're going to find out. Let's unbox them. So we're actually showcasing this ecosystem because these are all recently launched products from the Oppo lineup. And this one really belies the price tag, because as soon as you hold it in your hand and you look at this leather, well, orange poppy sort of finish, it looks so premium. That's not all. There's a lot of things like these ring lights around the camera, which I'll show you in a bit. They are absolutely stunning, mind-boggling design. I have not been so impressed with an affordable smartphone for a long time. It's not just that, they've also tried to innovate with the camera sensor. They have a new, well, Sony sensor, which is quite flagship-like if you ask me. So really, it's safe to say that this is one good-looking smartphone. And then, of course, Oppo has innovated with a lot of things. The camera sensor has really been improved, and it's also powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 680, which we've obviously seen in a lot of phones already. And there's a lot of low-cost offerings where you actually see this chipset. This phone is only available in one sort of variant, which is 8 GB of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. And it comes with a 4500 mAh battery, 33 watt super whoop fast charging, and look, it's snappy, it's got an intuitive OS, it feels amazing to hold, it looks good, and I think Oppo does a fairly decent job with their cameras. But what really stands out is how good looking this phone is. I've really enjoyed using this phone, and frankly, we've used a few Oppo phones on Tech Today, but now when you actually use it in their ecosystem, it's not like there aren't benefits. There's several benefits, and that starts off with the Air 2 Pro. Now these headphones, as soon as you take them out of the box and you open them, they automatically connect. If you have, of course, an Oppo phone running ColorOS 11 and above, they automatically connect and pair with that phone. And I think that is interesting. Now, I'm going to tell you the price of this, and then it's going to be, well, a mind-boggling moment for you, because these are actually under 3,500 rupees, as opposed, of course, to my AirPods, which cost maybe 6 times or 7 times that amount. They also come with active noise cancellation, and throughout my time testing these guys, they've sounded fantastic. They don't have spatial audio and stuff like that, but at 3,500 rupees, if you've got headphones which look like this, which fit in your ear pretty well and automatically pair with your Oppo device, that is a great start. These orbit lights that I was talking about, or the ring lights around the lens, are not actually a gimmick. You can actually use them for very useful things, and they look really good. As you can see, you could use them for notifications for incoming calls, always on while charging. They could be used for game launches. They could really just work as notifications and blink all the way. And that sort of adds, well, a new element to your phone, which is kind of refreshing if you compare it, well, to all the flagships. They've gone kind of boring and morose, if you ask me. And this sort of tiny, frugal innovation can go a long way in enhancing your user experience. Look, sometime in 2020, we were really excited about Oppo launching an Oppo watch. A lot of influencers and reviewers covered it, but it was a little expensive and people weren't entirely sure about it. Cut to 2022 and now they have the Oppo Watch Free. Well, it's not really free. That said, if you're using the Oppo Watch Free, then you know that it's more like a fitness tracker in terms of, well, design than a smartwatch, but it does everything that a smartwatch does. And I really put it through its paces by comparing it with the Apple Watch. For instance, if you're taking a heart rate reading on this and then a heart rate reading on this, you'd be surprised that they give you exactly the same figures. It's a similar story when you're talking about blood oxygen levels, which is something that's become very popular. A lot of people want that feature on their smartwatches or wearables. It's giving me precisely the same reading when it comes to blood oxygen monitoring as well. And this is obviously all for 6,000 rupees, and I'm very impressed. It's very comfortable to wear. The plastic isn't, well, that annoying on your skin as well. And if you're talking about the features on it, there's all sorts of exercises. I do a lot of weight training. You also have your sleep tracking, and then you have your activity tracking. You can also control the F21 Pro's camera from this, and music control. It has a flashlight. You can find the phone. So if I click this, well, it's found my F21 Pro. It'll be interesting to see if I pair this with several devices, how it works. Of course, it works really well with the Oppo scheme of things. Now, I'm just trying to tell you, of course, there's no comparison to flagship smartwatches and stuff like that, but it does the job. It looks pretty good. Even an affordable ecosystem, if we were to explore what OnePlus has to offer, what Oppo has to offer, or even Xiaomi for that matter, we can add a tablet to this, right? We know that Xiaomi is launching a tablet very soon as well. Maybe we should do a Xiaomi ecosystem, because this has become a very interesting space for tech companies to innovate. If you can come up with a better user experience and, well, some incentive for users to buy just your products, then it's, well, a win-win for all of us. Look, you'd say that under 25,000 rupees, if I want to purchase a phone, under 30,000 rupees, there's a lot of options from Realme, Xiaomi, OnePlus also, and the like. But if you look at these phones and then you say you have no real preference when it comes to the operating system or the software that's on those phones, and you're okay at ColorOS, then I haven't seen a better looking phone, like I said, in this price point. So just for the looks, I would pick this. The Oppo Watch Free, there's a huge con, which is the name. It shouldn't have been called the Oppo Watch Free. That makes it sound a little less premium. And frankly, it has all the features that you'd want in a tracker under 10,000 rupees. And if you're getting it for 6,000 rupees, great. Well, I'll be honest with you, while wearing them, they weren't the most comfortable, maybe because I'm used to the Samsung buds and of course other truly wireless earbuds and the AirPods Pro as well. But the Oppo Air 2 Pros were fantastic, especially when you consider how they look and the fact that they cost less than 3,500 rupees and they come with fantastic bass and active noise cancellation. When I look at the ecosystem we've assembled here on Tech Today, I can say this safely, that this is an ecosystem which is affordable and it works effortlessly. Now, wearables are an important part of the ecosystem, but they're also the coolest part of the ecosystem. And if you're into health and fitness like me, then they are a crucial part of the ecosystem. Now, there's an Indian brand which is making all the right noises by becoming the #1 wearables brand in the country and actually becoming a top 10 wearables brand all over the world. Let's find out who the person is behind that brand and what they're doing really by making all the right noise after this short commercial break.
Call him the tech daddy, the bird hunter, or the big bad bully of the tech world. But you cannot ignore Elon Musk, whose latest attempts to take over Twitter has Jack Dorsey running for cover. Musk has declared war and triggered an acquisition bid against Twitter. And if Musk is successful, it will put Twitter on very slippery ground. With a 9.2% chunk of Twitter in his kitty already, for a whopping $3 billion, Musk became the biggest shareholder in Twitter and has made an all-cash offer to Twitter to take over the company. But what is Musk thinking? Why is he doing all of this? Musk believes Twitter is censoring way too much and has frequently criticized Twitter for the same. But now he finally decided to just buy Twitter off and fix things the way he wants. Actually, the thing is, Elon Musk was bullied as a kid, and now it seems like he's adopted a similar bully approach to get what he wants by making it rain green. To deepen the wounds further, he put up a poll on his Twitter handle asking if he should make Twitter private, and over 80% voted yes. Twitter founder Jack Dorsey will be in the firing line among the current board if Musk takes over Twitter. But the board is not going out without a fight. They plan to flood the market with new shares at discounted prices. Elon Musk's next move is highly anticipated.
When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism. When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism.
You are watching India Today.
Welcome back to Tech Today, guys. I'm your host Ayush Alavadi, and this is a very special moment on this show. That's because we're launching a new segment called The Innovators, where you guessed it right, we are showcasing innovation in the Indian startup scene, in the Indian tech scene, what's happening and what really are the stories behind some of these big founders. That's what we're going to be doing on this segment of Tech Today, and we're going to launch it with a very special guest. Meet the innovator of the day.
Thank you, Ayush, for having me here. My pleasure.
Amit, like I said, you've been making all the right noises in the wearable space, but you started off as a very different company, which was going to sell smartphone covers and accessories. Then you all pivoted and became the #1 wearables brand in the country. What was that journey like, and what's the secret sauce?
Ayush, from day one, we wanted to be around mobile as an ecosystem. We realized that for the Gen Z and millennial customer, the journey has to be around mobile. So the easiest way for us to start was mobile accessories. And from then on, we understood the consumer and we realized that if you have to build a long-term moat, I think gadgets is a space where you should be there, and then how we pivoted. As a brand, we want to be the largest connected lifestyle brand, and health and hearable and wearable really fits in there. If you ask me what is the success for Noise, so we are not a brand who focus on white labeling the products. We as a brand pivot around the consumer. For us, the consumer comes first. We really understand what is the need case it's gonna solve for the consumer, and then on we go on developing, designing, and getting onto the product. And that is a key reason for the success of Noise as a brand.
But Amit, products from Apple are really expensive and really out of the reach of the average consumer. What you guys have done, and done really well, is attack the 3,000 to 7,000 rupee segment, and you've gotten great success over there. When you look at the top 10 wearable brands in the world, it's not just Noise doing well in India. Globally, in terms of revenue, you guys have now come into the top 10. You've replaced Fossil, a legacy brand like Fossil, in that list. So when the Khatri brothers actually came up with Noise, was price point, well, the real rationale behind making all the right noises?
So Ayush, you need to look at it. India as a country is very diversified, and maybe 5 to 6% of the users are on iOS or who are premium users. But if you look at the majority of the folks, they are Android. We feel there is a huge market for those kind of users because Apple ecosystem is also locked to Apple. And India as a country is fairly growing. There is a Gen Z millennial customers who is really looking to buy a product which is designed for Indians at Indian pricing. So that's how Noise really fits in there. So we are in a price bucket where people are happily willing to experiment and they find the best buck for money.
Amit, we speak to a lot of tech companies on the show, and I really think the real bedrock of innovation is when tech brands are really obsessed with customer feedback and really building on the user experience in the consumer space. Is that something you all take very seriously at Noise? Are you all, perhaps in the future, working on your own OS, your own operating system? Is that something which could really enhance the customer experience for a lot of the Noise fans out there?
So definitely, Ayush, we see in 2 years you will see an entire transition from. We work on RTOS actually. It's an open source OS, so you can't install any apps besides on Samsung and what you call Apple ecosystem. But in 2 years' time, you would see those things happening on RTOS. You will see soon for cellular connectivity coming on our watches. So we are working towards it. In the coming time, you will have it there.
Amit, I was reading an old interview of yours where you actually said that in 2022, you had a particular sales target. Judging by your numbers, it looks like you have surpassed that or are on track to surpass that. What was the last couple of years like at Noise, especially given the consumer was locked in or locked down here at home and trying to experiment with the wearable space?
COVID actually helped us accelerating the adoption of these devices in the ecosystem. And we grew year on year. Last year we grew 250%. We closed close to 800 crores of a business. And this year we are already at an ARR of 1500 crores.
Amit, I know you want to make a big splash in the international market, and we wish you the best for that, being a homegrown brand. But that said, what are the next few years going to be like? What can we expect from Amit Khatri and Noise in the short to medium term?
So if you look at it in short to medium term, as we said, we want to build a connected global lifestyle brand, but you will see interesting products coming in from our side, which would be a lot of industry first. We are really focused on data, what comes in, and that really helps us to create next set of products. Wearable has lot to be done there. By the way, we have partnered with a brand called Bragi for Truly Wireless also. So they're gonna make Truly Wireless more interesting. It's just not gonna be like a feature phone. It has to be a smartphone kind of enablement where all the features or apps can be enabled from the OS there.
Amit Khatri, absolute pleasure to have you with us on Tech Today and kickstarting this new segment called The Innovators. We hope you continue to make all the right noises in the wearables space. And since we're talking about wearables and the ecosystem and hearables, and that's also something, well, I thought we've had this chat already, right, on wearables, but I really think this segment could be all about wearables yet again. Now, a few weeks ago, we had the Garmin Fenix 7 Solar on the show, and I worked out with it, I went to sleep with it, I went to the gym, I did all sorts of things with it, and that data was mind-bogglingly accurate. But the problem with the Fenix 7 Solar, although it charges using the sun, the problem was that it was way too expensive and not really affordable. But Garmin really has that sort of fascinating data and very insightful sort of data sets which can actually be very good if you're trying to track your health and fitness journey. So what if I told you you can get something from the lineup of Garmin which is half the price of the Fenix 7 Solar but does quite a good job as well? Jinuk has all the details.
So when people ask me about smartwatches and what smartwatches they can buy, I ask them two questions. First, how do they intend to use the smartwatch, or why do they need it? And second, what their budget is. Then if someone tells me that budget is not really an issue for them and they just want a smartwatch to track their fitness and health really well, there's one brand I usually always go to. It's Garmin. Now, Garmin's collection of smartwatches is pretty massive, but today we're taking a closer look at the Garmin Venue 2 Plus. The Garmin Venue 2 Plus is priced at Rs 46,990 and it's available in 3 colors. They do have one standard dial size all through, which is a 43.6mm size. The Garmin Venue 2 Plus looks very similar to the Garmin Venue 2, the only difference being this extra button in the middle. Internally though, Garmin has made some changes with the Garmin Venue 2 Plus. It has added the mic and the speaker. So you can take calls from this and also reply to messages from this using your smart assistant if your smartphone is compatible. The Garmin Venue 2 Plus works with 3 smart assistants: Bixby, Google Assistant, and with Siri. The call volume on the Garmin Venue 2 Plus is not too bad, but how well it works or doesn't work depends entirely on how noisy your environment is. But that applies to pretty much any smartwatch that allows you to take calls right from your wrist. However, compared to the Apple Watch, I found this a little wanting. The Garmin Venue 2 Plus does not have LTE or cellular functions, so essentially the watch uses the phone for voice assistance and for calling purposes. You can also use the watch to control music on your phone like you can with most smartwatches. The Garmin Venue 2 Plus has a stainless steel dial and there's the Corning Gorilla Glass 3 on top of this touchscreen AMOLED for protection. The watch promises 11 days of battery life on a single charge. However, it lasted us just about 6 days. Garmin says that this watch should last you about 8 hours if it's on GPS mode with music on. On GPS mode without music on, it should last you about 22 hours on a single charge. The Garmin Venue 2 Plus also comes with 5 ATM water resistance, so it means that you can take this watch for a swim. But for starters, you need the Connect IQ app on your smartphone to be tracking not only your health and fitness, but also to fine-tune your watch. You can download the Connect IQ app from both the Play Store as well as the App Store, and it works absolutely fine with your Android smartphone or your Apple smartphone. Health monitoring features on the Garmin Venue 2 Plus include features like heart rate tracking, abnormal heart rate alerts, respiration rate, SpO2 tracking, body battery, stress monitoring, fitness age, sleep tracking, health snapshot, etc. Garmin's on-screen workout muscle app works like magic, but only for strength workouts. Now, what is a muscle map? Say you're at the gym and you're working with weights and machines. That is what a strength workout is. And while you're at it and tracking it with a Garmin watch like this one, the watch is capable of tracking your reps, the number of times you do an exercise, and your hand movements to figure out what the exercise is and record it accordingly. The difficult part here is that you need to manually enter how much weight you're working with, which is a little annoying to do while you're in the thick of things. If your watch is on your left wrist and you are using your right wrist for an exercise, you also need to put in the reps and weight manually because the watch is not able to track that. However, with the watch not being able to track it when you are working on your lower body is quite a bummer. Additionally, the kind of activities you can track with the Garmin Venue 2 Plus are limited. Unlike what we have seen on Samsung and Apple and Fitbit and even cheaper smartwatches, there aren't too many activities to pick from automatically. This app also has a bunch of videos that you can watch to find the kind of exercise you are looking for, and the watch will automatically add it to the list. Garmin said that they have been receiving customer inputs regarding the kind of activities that can be tracked, and in future we might be able to see more common ones being included. To be honest, if you're someone who does go to the gym to use just the bike or the treadmill, this won't matter to you much. But for those training with weights, it will. Given that health and fitness is such a significant part of Garmin's portfolio, this is something they really need to look into. I had no issues with the Garmin Venue 2 Plus except this one, the workout bit. I've always really liked Garmin watches. They track workouts way more intensely than any other watch does, and I totally love them for that. Because I was not able to track my workouts very meticulously, it kind of made me question, does it really make sense to spend all this money on a smartwatch? But there's this one thing that I would definitely want to maintain, irrespective of which ecosystem you're a part of, Apple or Android. If you're looking for a smartwatch that takes health and fitness seriously, Garmin is definitely it. They do it better than even Fitbit does. So if you're someone who really takes health, fitness and working out very seriously and you're looking out for a new smartwatch and budget is not an issue for you, the Garmin Venue 2 Plus is something you can definitely consider. If you're looking for a smartwatch which costs more than 40,000 rupees, your options are kind of limited. You have the Apple Watch and you have the Garmin's. Now, which one you pick depends on the ecosystem you're ingrained in. The Apple Watch does not work with any other device except your iPhone, whereas the Garmin can work both with an Android and an iOS device. Now, if you're just a regular gym goer and you just want to track a little run on the treadmill or some weights, the Apple Watch works just fine. But if you're seriously training for a competition, then Garmin is something you would want to consider. Now, to wrap it all up, if you're looking for a fitness-first smartwatch, I'd recommend the Garmin in a heartbeat. But like I said, it all depends on how you work out.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this show. If you have or you haven't, you have to let me know on our social media handles. I'll give you a little bit of a curtain raiser or a sneak peek for next week's show. It involves a road trip, there might be a game or two played, and we'll have the country's top startup founders as well. And while we're doing all of this, we'll hopefully be talking tech on a single charge. I think I gave away too much, but that's about all the time we have on this show. Until next week, adios.
You are watching India.
We are in the front line, not because it's just our job. It is our duty to tell you the story as it unfolds. Brave, fearlessly, relentlessly. And we'll do it at any cost. This is Mosmi Singh with video journalist Parminder Sharma reporting from war zone Mykolaiv, Ukraine for India Today.
Grounded in journalism, on the ground reporting. Only on India Today TV.
Line, not because it's just our job. It is our duty to tell you the story as it unfolds. Brave, fearlessly, relentlessly. And we'll do it at any cost. This is Mosmi Singh with video journalist Parminder Sharma reporting from war zone Mykolaiv, Ukraine for India Today.
Grounded in journalism, on the ground reporting. Only on India Today TV.
Are watching India Today.
Hello there, good afternoon. You're watching